Now we can make research without any ideological frames.
So we have always been ecological, and we were fitting into this ecological niche.
We have this huge heritage which unite us.
You have to be outdoors and you have to conquer nature. You have to manage tame horse. You have to manage these horses. You have to manage herds of horses, right? And it gives you strength.
Hello everyone! On September 8th to 13th, the 5th World Nomadic Games will be held in Astana. In honor of this event, we organized this podcast, which is Jartas, and I'm its host, Madi Fazl. Visiting today, we are going to introduce today's guests, Associate Professor of Anthropology, Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Nazarbayev University, PhD, Alima Beysenova. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Director of Research Institute for Joshi Ulus Studies, Jaxlıq Sabitov. Thank you. And student of Eurasian National University, PhD, named after Gumilov, Master of Sports in Traditional Archery, Tlepirgen Ayım. Ms. Ayım, thank you for being with us today. So the topic that we are going to discuss today is mainly about the cultural heritage of nomads from the perspective of academia. Let's touch upon this topic, starting with the first question that I would like to direct to Mr. Jaxlıq. Tell us, please. I would like to start with something brief here. So, are there modern Kazakh people genetically direct continuation of the peoples who inhabited the territory in the past of ancient Kazakhstan? We would like to hear something from you first.
In the beginning of the 21st century, it was one big silence revolution in ancient DNA studies. And now, after 20 years of the beginning of this revolution, we know a lot of information about ancestors of different populations. For example, for Kazakhstan, the most important data is about ancient populations of Botai culture. It's the most ancient, and it was two samples of Botai culture. And first sample belonged to R1b haplogroup, and he is ancestor of medieval Kipchaks and Kimaks and modern Kipchaks. We can see about 7,000 years of heritage. Yeah, and second result has no any descendants among Kazakh population now, but it's only second result. And it's very interesting because we see genetic relations between ancient DNA and ancient population and modern population of Kazakhstan. And second, it's article of 2017. It's article of Samashev and Underlander. They made a lot of ancient DNA from different parts of Kazakhstan, and they found that the population of Bronze Age, Andronova culture, and Skifs, Eastern Skifs, are ancestors of Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and Turkic ethnic groups of Siberia. And it's very interesting because we know that we can see big relations between this ancient population and modern population of Eurasia.
Yeah. And so you were saying that we have all rights to say that we are basically the continuation of those ancient tribes that were inhabited here before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a question on my mind dedicated to this question just to fulfill it, I guess. One of the main parts of nomadic culture at that time, the traditions of horse herding, yeah, as we claim. That might be some stereotypes, of course, but some people claim still that Kazakhs were one of the first who had the horse breeding. I'd like to ask maybe Ms. Alima, and we'd love to hear your perspective on how these traditions have changed, maybe.
There are many debates about domestication of horses, right? First of all, what does it entail, right? was it domestication? Does it mean that you herd horses? Does it mean that you ride horses? Does it mean that you sort of use horses as a draft animal, like with a cart or something? There is not a clear evidence of riding, right?
Yeah.
In Batai culture, there is a evidence of herding and milking.
Yeah.
Horses, right? Herding and milking, but there is and the horses that were domesticated in Botai, they are not ancestors of the modern horses. But it can happen. It happened throughout history that, horses can live in the wilderness without people, and they will live in the wild. It happened, for instance, in the Americas with the horses of conquistadors that then became, what is the name of the Mustangs, that they became Mustangs, and then they were again domesticated by Indians. So there is sort of the process of horses going wild and being domesticated again and going wild again. So it can sort of the historical process. But there is now clear evidence, and Jartas, you can correct me, that the horse was first ridden in the Volga-Don region, right? There is an evidence of that sort of the riders. And the people of the Volga-Don region, they're also not far away from us. But the most ancient sort of, we can say also maybe not domestication, but sort of the appropriation of horses we see in the Tamgalı site near Almaty. And there are petroglyphs, and one of these petroglyphs is the people with the sun instead of the head, right? We call them Sanni people, and there are horses with horns, right? And this is the Bronze Age. It's sort of the 13th, 14th century before Christ, and it's a very ancient time, and it might be even before the domestication, or maybe the beginning of the process of the domestication. And there is one sort of interpretation that horses were used for transporting the souls of the dead to the other world. Wow. And these people with the sun instead of the head, they are the first shamans. So the shamans were the first people to domesticate horses and then to use them as a there was an important ritual of, the soul traveling in the Sak kurgans, right? The mounds of Saks, they're often horses buried with the people, right? So, because people thought that they will need horses in the other world, right?
Yeah. I mean, horse itself has been a part of not only domestic culture. We have used not only as a transportation, but also as a sports tool, like horsing itself. And as for a member of sports, I would like to ask Ms. Ayım about you are being a traditional archer and researcher in this field. You are researching the infrastructure of national sports in Kazakhstan. And could you tell us how are we nowadays popularizing the nomadic heritage?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yes, fortunately, I'm both an archer, a traditional archer, and a researcher.
Yeah.
And I think that it is very difficult to research the infrastructure and national sports, this area, when you have not participate in any competition. For example, if you have never seen an infrastructure in action, for example, hippodromes and other types of infrastructure, people cannot understand.
Feel fully,
yes.
Like to dig deeper into
deeper, understand deeper. For example, my journey in this field starting maybe in 2019 when I first went to Kyrgyzstan, to the Kyrgyzstan Valley, where Kyrgyzstan held the first, second, and third Nomad Games, World Nomad Games, and I saw that it is amazing nature, amazing Kyrgyzstan Valley between the magnificent mountains, and I feel that maybe I can change classical archery hobby to the traditional archery hobby. It was my journey to become the traditional archer, and then In 2021, 2022, I participated in Salburun competitions, also in Kırşın Valley, and I saw the amazing atmosphere when all archers and all, for example, other kokpar athletes, kokboru, in Kyrgyzstan, kokboru athletes, and athletes from falconry, from horseback archery types of sports, all came in one place, and I can see that it is
Slightly different, maybe.
yes, slightly different from
approach.
other types of sports. For example, classical types of
Yeah.
sports in nowadays. And I think that the main difference in our games, World Nomad games, from other games in Turkey and in Kyrgyzstan is that we want to build infrastructure in northern
regions.
in north part of Kazakhstan, because, as you know, for example, in equestrian types of national sport, also we have many good athletes, excellent athletes, but only from southern parts of Kazakhstan, and we want to develop this. This opportunity for also not for the athletes from the warm regions of Kazakhstan, but also from the northern part of Kazakhstan. Because if we build the infrastructure in Astana, in Aktobe, for example, in Kostanay city, we can build the big opportunity and the big value for our generations, next generations.
Yeah.
And for example, in Kyrgyzstan, they want to build tourism sector.
Yeah, they want to
That's why-
improve the
yes,
tourism.
That's why they held the World Nomad Games in Kırşın Valley,
Oh, okay.
among the mountains. And for example, in Turkey, 2 years ago, they held the World Nomad Games near the Iznik Lake. It is in Bursa province. As you know, as many people know, that Bursa is the first capital of Osman Empire.
Empire, yeah.
And Turkey now want to develop and
The imperial heritage.
to develop the knowledge.
Yeah.
I can say, I won't say to develop the knowledge about their imperial heritage,
Okay.
about their big cultural heritage, also through the movies, for example, through the TV shows. And we now see that, for example, in my sport, in traditional archery, we have excellent athletes from Turkey in traditional archery, for example. And it is one of the differences, I think.
Yeah, but what about the cultural appreciation, cultural exception of those games? Do they vary anyhow, like how Kazakh people accept nomadic games, how Kyrgyz people accept them? What does it actually mean for Turkic people? Yeah, how it might vary? I mean, Ms. Alima, maybe you would answer this question.
I would say that as initiators of the nomadic games, I think the Kyrgyz people should.
They were the initiators.
Yeah, they
Oh.
were the initiators, and I think that they're the most enthusiastic, right, about the nomadic games. And I think, and they were also the people who could sort of insist on their cultural heritage. For instance, in the Kokbura, they still play with a real goat, not a moulash goat. And I think in Turkey they have their own games, but they also want to open their arms to the rest of the Turkic people and include them. And I also think that it's the rise of these nomadic games. It's not only people with the nomadic heritage who sort of participate in them, but also there are many other. There is currently in Europe, in the global world, there is this movement called reconstructionists. People reconstruct from ammunition, weaponry, like the historical, and people want to participate. People want to participate in this archery. As I am told, like many people from Hungary, from England, from Britain, came to play in these games, and there is this sort of how to say flexibility in this game. You know how Olympic games are highly standardized. So your arch should be this, long, this tall, this, of this width, or your, arrows should be this
Size, yeah.
this
everything
size.
matters.
And everything is standardized to the, to the little thing and how you should. But here it's sort of there is a great flexibility even how you play kokpura. Like the rules are evolving. Like we now have kokpar and we have kokpura, and we have many other sort of in archery different varieties of archery. So I think there is sort of the spirit of freedom, the spirit of freedom sort of that drives this.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And up to this question, Mr. Jartas, what do you think about the modern scientific research help to understand the history of nomadic peoples? Maybe how do they influence the consciousness of their descendants? Like, would you tell us something about this?
Oh, modern research of the history of nomadic people can tell us a lot of information, because now we can make research without any ideological frames, because before the independence we have imperial and Soviet frames that make our history small pieces. And you cannot understand whole picture because you see only small pieces, and you cannot see the whole picture in this case. Now we can understand that the rules of the nomad society was the same in different era. And if you compare Turkic Khaganate or Kazakh Khanate, you see a lot of similarities. That there are 10 centuries difference between two states, but you can see that one type of economy shape our society. And now, when we can compare different states, different ages of our history, you can see a lot of common
similarities and differences.
And so that's why now also we should understand that there are a lot of small scientific revolutions in different directions of our history. For example, you can see big revolution in numismatic data. For example, in the Golden Horde, you can see 1 million coins in different museums, and every year you can find new Khan, new place where the coin was produced.
It's still discovering, yeah?
Yeah. Previous year we found Alash Bek Bazari coin produced in center, and it connected with Alash, legendary Alash person who was legendary ancestor of Kazakh population. Yeah. Also, the 2 years ago we found new dynasty in the Sirdarya region. They produced coins, for example, 60 years. And you have a lot of new knowledge in different aspects. For example, ancient DNA, numismatics. Also, you can see radiocarbon data and archaeological insights. That's why now modern history can see another picture. We are living in the process of the reshaping or reproducing new data about our history.
Wow, that's impressive.
Rediscovery of the nomadic.
Yeah.
Rediscovering, yeah. I mean, Ms. Alima, could you tell us more about, since we've been mentioning all these facts and since we are reshaping in the period of reshaping, how this ancient tradition continues to influence our modern economic practices, maybe, or does it actually affect it, or?
Well, I think with we are now experiencing the revival of, let's say, horse herding. Our horse population has grown since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Like if the 1990s we had about 1 million horses, now we have 4 million horses. So in the situation of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the crisis of the 19th, while the population of the cattle, the population of the goats and sheep was falling, the population of horses was rising. And it's because, the tradition of horse herding, it's something that fits our landscape, and that something can be that can be done without the great investment into infrastructure, because the horses, they graze throughout the year. They eat grass from under the snow, as well as sheep. They eat grass from under the snow. So the sort of surprisingly, we have a sort of an evolutionary let me rephrase this. Our, let's say, landscape is evolutionary adapted to certain herding practices.
Which is the horse breed.
And sheep herding. And these are also the very ecological practices that are now the West is rediscovering as, free-ranged, right? Free-ranged meat now. There is an eco practice that, any meat that you are eating on your table, it's better that if it was grazing, if it was, eating green grass, was outside and not standing at some, factory and such. So our herding practices were exactly these ecological practices that the West is now propagandizing, right? So we have always been ecological, and we were fitting into this ecological niche, and now we are rediscovering, as we are rediscovering our nomadic heritage, we're also rediscovering this ecological niche, and all of our sort of equestrian games, and they're coming out of these practices, right?
And
so
that's amazing. I mean, we just started a topic of rediscovering and reshaping. I'd like to dedicate next word to the Miss Ayım. How sports are rediscovering nowadays in Kazakhstan?
I think and I believe that Kazakhs in our days, for example, if they want to rediscovering the heritage of our ancestors, and if they want to feeling themselves the martial arts feelings, they naturally become a traditional archer, for example, a traditional horseback archer, a traditional wrestler, for example. Why? Because only this can give you the
true feelings of
those feelings. We have this huge heritage which unite us.
Yeah, I also want to support what Ayım said about sort of the spirit, right? Raising your spirit, and I think it's very important. And I just want to remind you sort of the times when the spirit was the lowest, right? And if you know the song Samaltao, yeah? And the Samaltao, like the refrain, Atti mispes jayaumas jayau danda. And it sort of, it reflects the spirit of, this depressed people who are walking, who are without, and they're walking without horses on their foot. And this is sort of, they feel themselves like they're slaves who are being led to Omsk, right? And then to be transferred to the Eastern Front. And this is the spirit of a person who was made a pedestal, like who was made to walk.
Who was forced.
Yeah, who was forced to walk. And I think sort of coming back to ride horses, it's sort of like Қазақша айтқанда рухтандырады. Yeah. It's sort of when I talk to the guys who play kokpar, who herd horses, they say, bigo tramas. we sit like high, we have a better view, it gives like you confidence. It gives you this spirit. And I think this sort of capturing this spirit and holding on to the spirit is very important.
Absolutely agree with that. I have one more question towards Mr. Жақсылық will add something on that. How do events from the past, from the distant past, influence our current?
We should understand that in our history we have different ages with different conditions. For example, if you see Golden Horde or Kazakh Khanate, you can see different type of power.
Power.
Yeah. For example, in Golden Horde, the Khan, the ruler of the state, was really a big boss. He had a lot of resources, a lot of cities, and that's why he can behave as an imperator. Yeah. But in Kazakh Khanate, you can see that Khan has no any resources. All his cities are villages. There are small level of his money. He had no money at all. And if you are ruler in Kazakh Khanate, you should behave like Batyr. You should take a part in all battles. You should be good in wrestling. Yeah, you should be like the hero.
But what about the people? Like the behavior of people who evolved and changed through years, or maybe have not changed. What about those?
I think we have a complex situation here because some researchers tell us that some population of Kazakhstan is like the population of Kazakh Khanate. They can live in democracy, and the power of Khan was really low. And another person tells that all our population come from Soviet era, and there it's like Homo Sovieticus, it's like post-Soviet person. And I have no opinion in this period, and I think we should make a lot of research to understand our population.
That's impressive. Yeah. Ms. Alima, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think if we can connect what Jartas just said about, that people in the Kazakh Khanate, they had to be Batyr, they had to prove themselves, yeah. And I think these nomadic games, it's the same spirit, right, of the being outdoors. It's not like you are going to the gym and putting like on something electric treadmill and running. You have to be outdoors and you have to conquer nature. You have to tame horse. You have to manage these horses. You have to manage herds of horses, right? And it gives you strengths because if you can manage horses, then you can, manage anything, right? The forces of nature, but you also understand that this is nature, right? You have a better understanding of nature, and I think it's a great thing that all of the traditional nomadic games are all outdoorsy sports, right? So you have to get out there,
certain
into the
connection,
step.
right?
Yeah,
with nature.
You have to sort of get into this space and make this space your own, conquer the space in a good way, like sort of manage this space, right? And manage nature, like horses and maybe sheep and other things. So I think it's sort of it's also about sort of being strong and being brave, like braving the nature, but it's also about this connection with nature and with animals, which is important for nomadic people.
Yeah. Miss Aim, as being a professional archer and dedicating your time to this sport, to this kind of sport, do you personally feel any spiritual connection with nature while doing it? Like, could you share your experience?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's amazing feeling. For example, in my first international competition in Kyrgyzstan, in Kurchin Valley, in Salburun, I stayed near the Asel Sadyrova. It is one of the best archers, women archers in nowadays. She's from Kyrgyzstan, and she's the golden medalist of the first Nomad Games, World Nomad Games. And I'm feeling that it is our heritage. It is the main thing, which is also complicated on the one hand, and on the other hand is the thing which united people from many countries.
I have one more question. What do these games about the character and identity of people who do such sports?
All of our traditional games, they evolved from the martial arts, right? So it's the same with Kokpar. Kokpar evolved from the martial arts because people had to train for battles. People had to train for sort of riding horses in a battle and how you would, hold on in a battle. And the main movements of Kokpar, they are, Қазақтар айтады ғой, білек күші, тақым күші. The power of your arm, yeah, and the power of your legs, right? And so the main movement in you have to sort of get to the, while sitting on the
In
horse.
a sitting position, get
yeah,
down.
get down to the earth, like to the very land, and get the goat, right?
Yeah.
Put it under your leg, right? Hold it and get it to the position, right? To the goal, like to the kazan, yeah? And it requires, and you have to be one with your horse, right? Because horse has to listen to you, right? So these movements, I don't know, maybe they were used in the during the battles. Maybe you had to get something,
Yeah.
right? Somebody, I know, somebody was lying on the, I don't know, like you had to get something, you had to put it, and you had to hold on to it, and you had to have a courage to attack while on the horse, and you also you are attacked, and you have to stand your ground while you are being attacked, right? Because people attack you, and you have to push ahead.
Yeah.
So it requires courage, because when somebody is attacking you on a horse, your natural reaction is to get away, right, from this. But here, both horse and the rider, they have to stand their ground and hold on to the goat, not to give the goat. So this is sort of the wrestling of the people, so the spirit of the people, but also the spirit of the horses, right? And that's why it raises a certain type of horses who can stand its ground, who can fight, and sort of the fighting spirit for the horses as well. That's why only stallions play in Kokpar, in other games like by Gede, by Taldar Shabbat, you have to be, they can be mares, and in the geldings, castrated horses can sometimes also race, right? But in Kokpar, you have to have a stallion, because you have to have this power of the horse to sort of to use it So I think it's the skill of holding your ground, not being afraid of the threat, of the challenge and of the threat, and be sort of just, it's a game of the brave, like as I say in Russian, трус не играет в хоккей, трус точно не играет в Kokpar, because it's very painful. Yeah, it's very painful and it's very scary.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, just looking, I never play Kokpar, but just looking at it, it's just like, it's always, oh my goodness, like somebody is going to happen. It's a very contact sport, and it's dangerous. What I noticed when I noticed that Kokpar Shlar, like they don't like to play with like moulage, because it's not convenient, because when you hold the goat has wool, it's
not of a proper,
easier, it's easier to hold, it's easier, and moulage, and you imagine it's something, it was, I mean, the goat is already beheaded, and but it was a living thing, and you are carrying it. It's something that you can then eat. It's something that you can fight for. But with the moulage, I'm like, what is the use of why I'm carrying it? Why I'm trying to fight for it? It doesn't have the same.
It doesn't express the sport fully.
The sport fully. And for instance, in traditional games, you sort of slaughter the goat, you give bata, right, after Bismillah and so on, and then you can eat this goat, right? It's not that this goat goes to waste, right? Something that you would do anyway, but of course its meat becomes softer after it's been played for so long. So there is a reason behind every say movement in Kokpar, and there is a reason behind every rule and such in Kokpar. So, and I just want to say Kokpar is gaining popularity. It's hugely popular. And what Aim said about the state support, it doesn't come near to the popularity of the game among people, because again, it cultivates these qualities of being brave, of standing your ground, of having your spirit, fighting spirit, and team spirit, supporting your friends.
I'm really concerned about like putting some light into all those sports, traditional sports, and culture and heritage and everything. And I have one more question. maybe to put it here as a conclusion and maybe to know your opinion about promotions being made. Recently, I have a question, I think, dedicated to Mr. Жақсылық, and maybe others will also add something to this, is on behalf of the president, a 7-volume textbook on the history of Kazakhstan was developed. But unfortunately, it seems like scientific research become the property of only scientists, right? But generally, people would be interested in that. And what prevents us from making it understandable for the general public? How do you think?
It's a big problem because all scientists, all historians write their articles for historians. That's why only if I write the article, I know that I have 5 persons whose opinion is really important for me. Another world is not important for me because only 5 professionals in this area. That's why if you write this article, you use complex language, and you should show all knowledge of the previous literature. And it's really big problem for our society because to read this article, you should know a lot of previous information.
Okay.
And if you don't know, you cannot
understand
get,
fully,
how this article is important. And I think in our country we should make some institutions that can make our history, science more popular, because we have a lot of scientific new insights, new sensations, but nobody knows it.
Yeah.
And for example, 2 years ago, we founded new coins of the Agus Khans. It's Agus, it's like ancestors of Turkmens, Azerbaijans, Turks, and some of them was ancestors of Kazakhs. And they produced coins. They have Islamic names, and you can see their names, their years of ruler, and a lot of information, but nobody knows it.
Yeah.
And I think we should have one institution that can promote, that can explain complex things by the popular and easy language.
Common language, yeah.
And a lot of person should work in this direction. In our case, we have no any bridge between scientists and society. And for example, even Wikipedia. For example, in the last year, in the 2023, Uzbekistan made more articles in Wikipedia than Kazakhstan. Yeah, it's for 1 year they produced 100,000 new articles.
Wow.
And Kazakhstan produced maybe 50 articles. And from the beginning of the Wikipedia, Kazakh Wikipedia, in 2011, there is no any new articles in Wikipedia. And we understand that all our historians knew a lot about our history.
Ms. Alima, would you conclude maybe with what's being done towards?
Well, first of all, I want to agree with Жақсылық that there has to be a bridge between, ivory tower,
Of course,
academia, and popular history. And I think Жақсылық is doing a great job of kind of bridging this gap between. And I completely agree that academics have to write in a plain, clear language, also for the wider audience, not for a few historians, because we are supported by society as anthropologists, as historians, and we have to give back to society, right, our knowledge in a plain language. And with this way, we also, maybe there has to be a debate in society, so it will be about history, about culture, about our heritage. And I also think that these nomadic games that we will have in September, that it's a great opportunity for us to showcase our culture and to showcase to rally our support behind sort of the nomadic heritage and even behind the history of the Jushulos and Kazakh Khanate and even Saks, ancient Saks that represents this nomadic history, and to learn more about this nomadic history and nomadic heritage.
Impressive. Really productive talk we had today. Thank you, our dear guest, participating to this podcast today. We appreciate your honest opinions, contribution into the reviving the Kazakh culture, the Kazakh history and sports in particular. Thank you for being with us today. And this was our episode on Jartas podcast and me, Madi Fazl. Guys, if you liked today's episode, put the thumbs up, write your comments down below, and please participate at the World Nomadic Games that will be held on September 8th to 13th. We'll be waiting for you there. Come, please, and be a part of this event. See you soon in the next episodes.